Unlike a lot of highbrow people, I find boring things to be boring. I find plays boring. I find the ballet boring. I find literally anything. I find movies boring. All that stuff to me is just so boring. And yet, bizarrely enough, when I'm reading an SAT passage or a GRE passage or even an LSAT passage, I don't even find it boring. Here's why that happens. And I know that a lot of you guys struggle with these SAT passages and you're like, oh my God, this passage is so boring. Let me explain what actually is happening underneath the surface, right? To you, you're putting in, it's not that the SAT passage has no value at all. It's that its value is like 10 units of value and the effort required is like 10,000 units of effort. It's so much effort for so little value. It's miserable. It's miserable. So what is the difference? Well, the difference is it's just this number. The value is to you and the value to me is the same. The information is just like some minor amount of information, right? The difference is, for me, the cost is lower. Now, how can the cost be lower? How can it be less effort for me to read it than for you to read it right now? Now, obviously, you'll get better at this too. Don't worry. The reason is it's just because of these skills that I've developed, grammatical reading, right? Logical reading, learning how to organize a lot of this data, it's just not that hard for me to do it. So if I'm reading a page of SAT text, it doesn't take me very long. It takes me a few seconds to understand. It just doesn't take that much effort for me. So even if the value is just 10, to me, I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's like a 900% profit. It seems worthwhile. Whereas for you, the cost is way up high. And to you, this is a massive, massive loss. You don't want to deal with this. This is miserable. So that's why it feels boring. So how do we correct the boringness? The way to correct the boringness is to actually build up those aspects of your reading skills. The grammatical reading, that's a big part of it. If you're reading non-grammatically, it's harder to do. Learning to read grammatically, to group words in phrases and clauses and all that makes this a lot easier to do. That's going to be one thing. The other thing is learning to read logically. The other thing is learning to more quickly pick up on subtext. If it takes you 35 minutes of effort to notice the subtext and it takes me a tenth of a second, obviously I'm not going to hate it as much as you do, right? Because you're just putting in more work, and at the end of it, we're both getting the same value. So building up these skills will make it so that you don't have to put in that much work to get the value, and you'll be shocked I know no one's going to believe this. You're not going to believe this right now. That's okay. You are going to be shocked at when you get good at it. It'll seem like the SAT passages suddenly become more interesting. They didn't become more interesting. You just became better at reading, so your costs went down. And suddenly you're like, oh, I just put this tiny bit of effort in to get such a huge value. That's fantastic. I love this SAT stuff. I know it sounds unbelievable to you right now. Stick with it. Build up your grammatical skills, your reading skills, and it'll be easier for you to do it. And that tiny bit of value right now, that 10 units of value, will actually be more than the cost you have to put in to get that information.